My name is Sharon Schutz, and I'm here with Jamie Waller, and we're going to go over some project team training for you guys this morning. So this is what we'll be discussing today. We're going to do kind of a little brief overview of the IPD, Integrated Program Delivery. We're going to do like compare and contrast of PPRM versus the PDN. We're going to talk about our project teams and their roles and responsibilities. We're going to talk about what it looks like to be in a high-performing team. We're also going to go over effective team meetings. So there'll be lots and lots of meetings. So we don't want to waste people's time, especially if they're having to travel to come in and meet in person. We want to know what it's like to have effective team meetings to make sure we get the results we want out of those. We're going to talk about decision making within the teams. What does that look like? And then finally, we'll talk about goals of these transition projects. Oh, it worked. So, integrated program delivery. So why IPD? Why is TDOT going to this? So we're going to look at separating the management of the project from the technical delivery of the project, right? So we have this new project management division, and we'll have project managers that kind of take over some of those management roles of the scope, schedule, budget, and quality for the projects. We're going to streamline the process to where it's transparent, repeatable, and accountable. So in these team meetings, everybody's coming together, making the decisions together, and so it's transparent in the way that you know what this person over here is making a decision on, and you have that interaction. It's not something where you go back in your corner of the world, make decisions outside the group. The group is making the decisions together. Everything's transparent and on the table. So we want to have a process that's repeatable, right? We want to have some consistency and be able to create the same thing over and over, and accountable. So we're all going to be accountable for the decisions that we make within the team. And it's all going to be kind of documented, as you will, in a project commitment document. So this is going to be a team-based culture led by the project managers. I know we kind of work in teams right now. We have design teams and we have projects, and we work with the folks on that. But this is going to be a much more collaborative team that works together to solve the problems and mitigate the risk and come up with the designs for these projects. And you'll learn more about that as we go along. So it's going to enable the project team as a whole to consistently deliver projects effectively and efficiently. Like I said, this project team will be together a lot, so you will be making the decisions together within the team. You're not going to send somebody to a meeting, take notes, and go back to your little corner of the world and try and solve the problem. Everybody is together solving their problems together. And so this is hopefully going to promote some innovation in how we design. I know we have our standard drawings and our design guides that we go by now, so it's a fairly structured environment. So we want to bring in some innovation into that, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along as well. So now we'll look at a compare and contrast of the PPRM versus the Project Delivery Network. So what are some benefits of this new process, PDN? Well, first of all, it's going to simplify the workflow. If anybody's seen that big, huge diagram of PPRM and all of its activities, it's usually printed on a roll plot. It's about 3 feet long. If anybody wants to print it out and put it up, it's a lot. So we're trying to simplify some of that workflow. So it will have 5 basic stages of delivery that we'll look at. It will consolidate the design process, and what that means is currently we're more tip to tail, kind of this activity has to occur before we can move to this activity and that sort of thing. So there'll be a lot more activities happening concurrently, as well as some early work that's done to kind of get things started earlier in the process. It's going to reduce the activities. There was like 185 in PPRM. We're going to reduce that down to around 50. But at the end of the day, we're still going to produce the same great work that TDOT's known for. So it's going to accelerate the process to drive decision making. What that means is, like I said, instead of taking notes at a meeting, going back, working with your functional area team, making some decisions, and then maybe you go back and meet again with the project team, and then you go back. And so we're just going to try to eliminate all that by the decision makers coming together within the team, and that'll drive that decision making. Entire team will have an understanding of the scope and schedule early, because you will be developing it together. You'll be part of the decision making on what the schedule is for your activities in your functional area, and you'll be part of scoping the project. You'll bring your expertise into the scoping piece, and so that everyone fully understands what's in front of them, whether it's environmental, right-of-way, the roadway piece. Everybody will develop that scope together, and so the team will have a full understanding. We're going to work to provide a reliable footprint. So everybody loves right-of-way revisions, right? What a pain. Because the footprint changed, right? Or we go outside the ETSA, or we got to change that. So we're going to work to very early on create a reliable footprint for the project. Everybody kind of signs off and says, yes, this is the footprint we're going with, and we're going to move forward with this. We're kind of decouple the right-of-way plans from the design, meaning the right-of-way work that happens. Obviously, the plans will have right-of-way on them, but some of the right-of-way processes where now you have to wait until you get final right-of-way plans before you can do some of these activities. We're going to kind of create some different documents that right-of-way can use, so they can start their work earlier and not have to wait until a certain set of plans gets developed. Quality is going to be very important to us for this, so there's going to be a complete plans review of all the discipline plans come together. That's not something that is typically done now. I'm not saying it's not done at all, but typically in the TDOT process, that doesn't come together. You don't get all the design plans together until the final end, when we're putting them in E-plans to print for construction to go to letting. So there are places along the process to have these full discipline reviews, and we're not just looking at checklist review. It's going to be an actual, is it constructible? Are we going to, is this the most efficient way to do this? Can it be done better? So typically now, the full set with all the discipline plans, the signal plans, the lighting plans, the structural plans, all those are not really pulled together and looked holistically in the process. Kind of they're all done independently. We might look at them at a field review or something like that, but the plan set's not really gone through with a quality control like review of the design and all the components, and make sure they all mesh together and work together. So the PDN allows flexibility to meet the project demands. There is a workflow, but it can be tailored to each project. If you have a smaller project, maybe it's an SIA, something like that, it's got state money, maybe it's just a glorified driveway, maybe there's no environmental features that we're impacting and that sort of thing. Maybe you don't have all that. You obviously would have NEPA pieces in there, but you wouldn't have all the other activities. So it can be pared down and tailored to the specific project. So this is also going to advance our culture of accomplishment that we're working towards. I know as designers, lots of times we're really proud when we have a design that's gone to construction and we can go out see it being built in the field, or maybe one that's been completed and you drive through with your family and you're boring them to death with all the design details about the project as you drive through. But some of our other functional areas don't really have not really had that kind of ownership of the project in the past. They do their piece and they don't really get to see that end result of the project. And you know, they've done their piece, then they've moved on to another project, right? So, but with this inclusiveness in the teams, everybody has input, so everybody feels ownership, and with it being done within a 5-year time frame, that's kind of the flow of the PDN. Is for a typical project is 5 years. For a smaller project, it could be less. So you'll have that opportunity to see your project being built. So we're fostering that culture of accomplishment. So this is kind of some milestones that you might see in the PPRM. We have our planning and concept that's usually in the form of a TIR or SIA packet that comes out of STID. You'll have some preliminary design, start some initial studies. You'll move to like a 40% where we have some field reviews. About 80% we're finalizing our right-of-way and our roadway plans. 95% we're looking at utility certification, right-of-way certification, trying to get everything buttoned up to get to letting. So the project delivery network is 5 basic stages. So the stage 0 is not really anything that this group would be involved in. Stage 0 is going to be like the STID piece now, the planning document. It's going to be called a concept report. And it's not going to look anything like what you've been used to in the past. It's not going to be that detailed. You know, basically now you have a full concept plan that you see in the TIR when you get them. This is going to be more like just a single line sketch with some basic traffic information and just to create the vision of what the project is going to be. But a lot of that, the details of it have not been fleshed out because that's what the project team's going to do from the very beginning. So stage 1 will be that, stage 1 through stage 4 will be that the stages that you guys work in to develop your project. So what does that look like? Well, for stage 1, like I said, that's going to be the context and scoping stage. Your team's going to be established as to who's on the project team. You'll look at some initial roadway elements, and basically you're working towards defining the goals and the outcomes you want for the project. You're going to talk about scope, schedule, budget, and quality a lot and figure out what your goals are and what you want as outcomes for that. And that stage is going to end up with having your context and scoping complete before it moves into stage 2. So a lot of that work that was typically done by STID to create those detailed concept plans will be done by the project team in stage 1. Stage 2, we're going to go ahead and set horizontal and vertical alignment. We're going to start looking at some environmental and some right-of-way utilities issues, construction issues, and you'll complete your project commitment document during this stage, because at the end of this stage you have your footprint established. That's that footprint that we're going to use for the project going forward. And then everybody all team members will, and you'll see, I'll show you this in a second, all team members will sign off that these are the risks we have come up with, these are the steps that we're going to do and this is our footprint, and everybody signs off on it. Stage 3, we're working to kind of get some, move further to complete the project, start looking at finalizing the plans. The project teams are going to look at some specifications. Typically in design teams, we've not had to look at specifications. We've got our spec book that we know, but there's a other specs that go with the plans when they are put out to letting, like special provisions and that sort of thing. And the teams will learn how to identify what the needs for those and incorporate that into the plans as well. So basically, at the end of stage 3, you have what we're going to call plan in hand complete. That's a pretty final set of plans, maybe 80-90% set of plans before we go into stage 4. And during stage 4, we're going to get all those final little details squared away for the complete set of plans. More review, obviously, to make sure everything meshes together. We're going to have some estimates. There'll be estimates as you go along, but we'll have a final good look at the estimate here before it gets put out to letting, and ensure all of our agreements, maintenance agreements, permits, and all certifications are in place. And then at the end of that stage, we send it off for it to be let. So this is when you get into the PDN, this is kind of what you're going to see as far as the workflow. This is the one for stage 0. Just to bring to your attention the color coding for the different disciplines. So for instance, STID is this little aqua color that kind of travels along. So they're going to initiate the concept report and request funding to do so. They're going to develop a draft concept report, finalize the concept report, or if it's an SIA, it'll come in and drop in and just go, because that's how SIAs do. But you'll see as you go along, all these other disciplines have introduced information to STID for them to develop this concept report. It is still inclusive of all the divisions to create this document. And then and you can see there's some budget and quality checks. This little target with the check mark is your quality check. The circle with the $ and a check mark is your budget check. But at the end, then we start the project development piece. So this is the next 4 stages that you'll see when you look in the PDN. Again, it'll have all of the different color-coded disciplines and kind of where the activities fit in. These are high-level activities, and in the actual PDN online, it's interactive, so you can click on whatever function you're wanting to look at and drill down into that activity further, and it gives you further information, more detailed information. So it's interactive, and you can sort it by just looking at your discipline or particular sets of disciplines that you want to look at one time. So it's very interactive, but this is kind of the basic workflow between the stages, stage 1, 2, 3, 4, with the things that we talked about that are at the end of those stages. And as you can see, also the quality and budget checks at each stage. So this is that project commitment document that I was talking about. At the top, you'll have your basic project information. You'll have the project goals and metrics that the team has come up with, the project scoping statement, the delivery type, environmental document type, some preliminary estimates, potential risk. And this is where all the team needs to come together and identify those risks early in order to create this risk assessment that will go forth and be a part of this document. And then the schedule, we'll talk about some high-level milestones for the project and kind of what those are scheduled to be. But the main deal for this is the sign-off by all the team members, the TDOT project manager, which would be Mike, the director of project management, which would be James Kelly, and the regional director, of course, for here it would be Joe. But it says, by signing below, I acknowledge I've received the scope, schedule, and budget, as well as the risk outlined herein. I agree that the information included in the PCD is representative based on the knowledge I have at this time. So basically, this is saying you agree, you've been involved in the conversations of where we got to this point, you agree with it, we're ready to move forward.